Hello, and welcome back to My Idea Way. I'm Hayden, and today I want to talk about something similar to what we talked about in our last episode about habits, but pertaining to a more modern scenario. Small habits, not big goals, not huge transformations, not change your life overnight type stuff, simple things that are almost unnoticeable. Because one modern example that is very close to the ideas of Aristotle is Atomic Habits by James Clear. And one of the most interesting ideas I found in his book is your life is not shaped by the big things that you do every once in a while. It's shaped by the small things that you do repeatedly. And that kind of sounds obvious, of course, but most people don't actually live by this rule. We tend to focus on our goals. I want to get in shape. I want to get better grades. I want to be more disciplined. I want to build something. I want to make money. And goals are fine, but Clear makes a important distinction in this. Goals don't determine your success, systems do. A goal is an outcome. The system is the process that leads to that outcome. And here's the main problem. Most people spend all their time thinking about outcomes. Very few people design their own systems. And that's why you can have two people with the same goal who get completely different results. Two people can want to get stronger in the gym. One person builds a consistent routine while the other relies on motivation. 6 months later, the results are like nothing alike. Not because one wanted it more or one was naturally stronger, but because one had a system. That idea alone can reframe how you think about improvement. Instead of asking, what do I want to achieve? You start asking, what can I do every day to achieve what I want to achieve? Because it's daily behavior that matters. It's daily behavior that compounds. And compounding is the second biggest idea in Clear's book. Small changes don't look like much in the moment, and if you improve by 1% per day, it sort of feels insignificant, and you might not even notice it because there's no immediate payoff. But over time, those small improvements stack up, and the improvement from start to end is massive. Clear uses this idea of habits as interest. Just like how money compounds in your bank account, behavior compounds in your life. A small positive habit repeated consistently creates exponential growth over time. A small negative habit repeated consistently creates decline over time. And the tricky part is that both of these processes are slow, so they're pretty hard to notice immediately, which is why people underestimate their habits. They expect quick results, and when those results don't show up, they quit on their habits. But the idea behind habits is that they don't work on short timelines, they work on long ones. Another really important idea from Atomic Habits is identity. Clear argues that lasting change doesn't come from focusing on what you want to achieve, it comes from focusing on who you want to become. Instead of saying, I want to run a marathon, you think, I want to become a runner. Instead of thinking, I want to read more, you think, I want to become someone who reads. And that shift is super important because behavior that aligns with identity is easier to maintain. If you see yourself as a disciplined person, acting with discipline is natural to you. If you see yourself as someone who avoids hard things, then avoiding difficulty is natural to you. So every action is like an internal vote. Every time you follow through on a habit, you reinforce that identity with one vote. And every time you skip it, you vote for the opposition. And over time, those votes accumulate to decide your identity. You don't become something in one moment. You become something through repetition. That idea connects directly to something we talked about in the Aristotle episode last time. You become what you repeatedly do. But Atomic Habits takes that idea and makes it practical. It gives you a way to actually build these patterns. One of the ways it does this is through what Clear calls the 4 laws of behavior change. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. Now, these 4 ideas sound pretty simple, but they're really powerful. Let's break it down. Make it obvious. Most habits are triggered by cues. If you want to build a habit, you need to make the cue visible. For example, if you want to read more, don't hide the book in a cabinet, put it somewhere you'll see it. If you want to work out, lay out your clothes ahead of time. Don't keep them in a pile or lay them in your closet. Design your environment so that the right behavior is the default, because willpower is unreliable. Environment is consistent. Second, make it attractive. We're more likely to repeat behaviors that feel rewarding. So if you can pair a habit with something you enjoy, it makes it easier to stick with. This is something that other people call temptation bundling. You combine something you need to do with something you want to do. Over time, what you need to do becomes more appealing to you. Third, make it easy. This is one of the most underrated ideas in the book. People often think they need to push themselves harder, but often the problem isn't effort, it's friction. If something is too difficult to start, you won't do it consistently. So, Clear suggests reducing the barrier. Start out with something small. Instead of committing an hour to studying, commit to 5 minutes. Instead of committing to a full workout, commit to showing up to the gym and seeing what you accomplish. Because consistency matters more than intensity. Fourth, make it satisfying. Habits that feel rewarding are more likely to stick. Even small rewards reinforce behavior, like checking something off a list, tracking your progress, seeing streaks over days. And those things might seem minor, but they matter psychologically. They give you a reward, they close the loop. Another important idea in Atomic Habits is habit stacking. This means attaching a new habit onto an existing one. For example, after I brush my teeth, I'll do 5 push-ups. After I sit down at my desk, I'll review my notes for my homework. You're using an existing routine as a trigger for a new one, which makes it easier to remember and easier to repeat. And over time, these small stacks build into larger systems, which is what we were talking about earlier. One thing that I think is really important about this book is that it removes the need for constant motivation. Motivation is inconsistent. Like some days you feel like you're going to do the work, you're going to do all your homework, and some days you don't want to, you know? If your system depends on motivation, it's going to break eventually. But if your system is built on structure, you can operate even when you don't feel like it. And that's what separates the people who stay consistent from those who don't. It's not that they always feel motivated, it's that they've reduced the need for motivation. They've made the right behaviors easier. They've made the wrong behaviors harder. And that's another key idea, that habits work in both directions. If you want to build good habits, make them easier. If you want to break bad habits, make them harder. Increase friction, hide the cues, create barriers, because behavior follows convenience. Another idea in this book that stands out is the plateau of latent potential. This is the idea that progress is often invisible at first. You're putting in effort, you're following the system, but you don't see results yet. And that's kind of the most dangerous point in the entire thing, because it feels like nothing is happening, but in reality, change is accumulating beneath the surface. And then, at some point, it becomes visible. That's why people quit too early, because they expect immediate feedback. When they don't get it, they assume the system isn't working. But the system might be working perfectly. It just hasn't reached the threshold where results can show. The final idea I want to land on is this. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. That line is one of the most quoted from the book, and for good reason, because it shifts responsibility. Success isn't about having better intentions, it's about having better structure, better habits, better systems. And the good news is that systems can be designed. They're not fixed. You can adjust them, improve them, refine them over time, and that's the message at the center of Atomic Habits. You don't need a complete overhaul. You don't need massive change overnight. You need small improvements, repeated consistently over time, because those small habits don't stay small, they compound, and eventually they just become your life. Thanks for listening.